The BOE out with their latest decision. No real surprise here, except their commentary around Brexit is what's interesting. The latest is that they say if recovery stalls, policy support may be needed. They wound up actually cutting their economic growth forecast. They do see inflation below target until the end of 2021, and they dropped their guidance for limited and gradual tightening. However, they did not cut. It was 7-2 to keep interest rates at 75 basis points. The majority see an improved global outlook and less uncertainty, but it's all about the UK economy. And if it improves, modest tightening, and if not, they may look at policy easing. You're looking at a reaction here with the FTSE down by about 1 percentage point. And if I take a look at what's happening with the cable rate, you're looking at that coming in about 130, so sort of spiking higher on the fact that they didn't actually cut. The whippy action has been crazy when it comes to the cable rate. Joining me now here in New York, Stephanie Flanders, Bloomberg Senior Executive Editor for Economics, and Christopher J. Wolfe, First Republic Private Wealth Management CIO. Stephanie, what should they have done?
You know, I think this was a really tough decision.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I would have said this was a dead cert. That, you know, why would they cut rates now? They don't know what's going to be in the first Boris Johnson government budget, and he's indicated he's going to spend a lot more. So you need to be able to put that into your forecast. We don't actually know whether this Boris bounce that people are talking about, the kind of let out of uncertainty that people have now that Britain's really leaving the Brexit, leaving the EU. We don't know where that's going to last, going to give a lasting boost to the economy. So everything pointed in the direction of wait and see, except, you know, this is an economy that 1 or 2 years down the track really is going to be leaving the EU, not just formally, but possibly with much tougher trade agreements, more uncertainty around what that deal is with the US or Europe. And this policy change now would be affecting the economy in a year or two's time. So this is not a strong economy, not one that you necessarily would say could, you know, wouldn't hurt to give it a rate cut, but they obviously thought they'll leave it for the new governor to come in March.
So, Christopher, the money markets now are pricing in the next 25 basis point, a cut actually in August now for the BOE. What's your call? What do you make of investing, say, in the UK?
I think there's two things. One, I think largely central banks around the world are trapped in a low growth, low inflation world, number one. Number two is I think they also have to wrestle with the question, just because we can, should we? So we can cut rates, but should we? And I think they need a little bit of policy insurance. It's important to remember that in many economies around the world, there's not a lot of shock absorbers left. Typically, it's fiscal policy. Hey, we'll spend more, we'll cut taxes, et cetera. Tough here, tough in other places. And we just talked about the UK spending a lot more potentially in the next couple of quarters. And so if you don't have that so much, you actually have to rely on monetary policy, and you need to save your bullets.
You see, that's what the debate is, because you look at the Fed last year,
and they didn't do
and
that.
there's the opposite. They say if you've only got a bit, you have to be sure you're going to avoid a recession by acting soon. So I think that's the real debate among central bankers. It would have been the reason for them maybe to cut now as that kind of preemptive insurance cut.